Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another Brilliant Metrics webinar. Today we're going to do something a little bit different than we usually do, and we are going to do a live demonstration. So, without further ado, let's get into it. If you stick around to the end, you will get the punchline to the joke. ChatGPT walks into a bar. Little bit of housekeeping. You will get a copy of, well, you probably won't get a copy of the slides, but you will get a link to the recording if you do stick around. And please do post questions in the chat as we go. You can post those questions into either the live stream chat, or if you're coming in through the live stream, or you can post them via the Zoom chat if you're coming in on the Zoom. In both cases, I'll do my best to address the questions live, and if I don't, I will definitely get to them at the end of the presentation. A little bit about me. My name is Steve Robinson, founder and CEO here at Brilliant Metrics. I love public speaking. I love educating. I love teaching. This is my happy place, and um, uh, I work for Brilliant Metrics. Well, I own Brilliant Metrics. Brilliant Metrics is a B2B marketing agency. We help clients continuously improve by setting up continuously running B2B marketing programs across a variety of different mediums. We've just distilled the B2B marketing world down into 6 proven methodologies. I'd encourage you to check out brilliantmetrics.com, where you can take an assessment to see which of our 6 proven methodologies is right for your organization. And with that, we'll move into the meat of today's presentation. We're going to basically touch on 2 things. One, how to generate personas rapidly using AI, and 2, how to use those personas. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come out here to the Brilliant Metrics website, and I'm going to download a template, because we have, under the tools section here, a handy B2B buyer persona template. So I'll hit download on this. Hopefully, there we go. And bring that up. So here's the persona template that we're going to be filling in. And to do that, I'm going to use Claude. That said, I've run the same demo through ChatGPT, and you get just slightly worse results, at least for the example persona that I ran during my tests. Claude and ChatGPT are pretty well on par these days for this type of work. If you want to get into more complex reasoning type of tasks, currently ChatGPT is in the lead there. And certainly if you need to access the internet, you need the AI to access the internet, ChatGPT wins there too, because Claude is locked in its own little will not talk to the internet box. So for the context of today's exercise, I found that Claude does a little bit better job with persona development, as it does a little bit better job with copywriting, but your mileage will certainly vary. And obviously that's going to be different next month, as these tools continuously are updating. So let's jump in to do today's exercise. I am going to ask Claude to actually role play as our persona. So I always like to be nice to the AI and be cordial. So we'll just say good afternoon. Um, you are, and we're going to give our persona the name James. Uh, you're a process engineer at a mid-sized power tool manufacturer. Now, you would put whatever would be a representative organization for your persona. So wherever they're working, like you probably have market segmentation built out. You'd put in a representative company for whatever your target market is right here. And probably some geography as well, just so that it doesn't start trying to pull information either globally or place your engineer in a different country because most people have outsourced that particular role or whatever it might be. Um, And then you just kind of open it up and tell it that you want to role play. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. The next thing is I need to tell the AI that it's okay to make stuff up. There have been a lot of controls and efforts that have been done by engineers to prevent what's called hallucinations, or when AI doesn't know the answer, and so it makes something up to fill in the gap. These large language models still do that. They still make stuff up, but because of those controls, if you don't tell it that you're asking it to make stuff up, sometimes it gets hung up. So we're going to say, if you don't know the answer, please feel free to make up what would be the most believable based on what you know. By saying, um, make up the answer that is most believable, I'm giving it a little bit of parameter here to uh, try to create what would be representative for the persona instead of just making something random up because it sounded good. That said, the way that these AI tools work is it's all based on probabilistic models anyway. So it's going to pick what is most likely the answer to the question. It's going to, based on the probabilities of all of its training data. So you don't really need to put that in there. It's going to do a pretty good job anyway, but I like to just hedge a little bit. Okay, let's hit enter here. I don't know what it's pondering. This is a pretty simple request. That's new. Let's move to ChatGPT. So, for anyone who's curious, what you just saw, Anthropic has more controls on Claude than any other AI, trying to prevent it from doing things that it shouldn't do. And there must have been an update in the last 24 hours since I just did this test yesterday, um, that it now has more controls. So, we're going to move over to ChatGPT. I'm going to use the zero one, which is a better reasoning model, um, and and have ChatGPT do this today instead of Claude because of an update that literally happened today. All right, so now I have ChatGPT acting as James, and now I can start to ask James some questions. So let's come back to our template here. We need a full name. Just a first name isn't enough, and we need to know his full job title. So I'm just going to move this over here. Mac, you're not helping me. James, what is your full name and job title? All right, so we have James Miller, and he is the senior process engineer. All right, we need some background. So let's find out some personal details about James. Did you go to school? And what degree did you get, if any? Now, that if any part is really important because if I just ask ChatGPT, what degree did you get? It will answer the question with a degree. But in this case, I'm pretty sure a process engineer has a college degree. But if it were a different persona and I wasn't 100% sure, I would say that if any becomes really important. If the bulk of people in that field actually didn't get a degree, it will tell me. But if I don't say if any at the end and I don't give it an out to not answer my question, it won't. It'll make up an answer that answers the question. So here it says that he went to Purdue with a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. And it says a master's in industrial engineering from the same institution. Okay. So I'm just going to start filling some information in here. Uh, Bachelor's in mechanical engineering from Purdue University. Let's ask James about his home life. He lives in the suburbs of Chicago. He's been married about 5 years, and he and his spouse have two young children. Oh, how old are you? 36 years old. And let's ask him about hobbies. All right. Let's ask James about where he works. Now, this could be a separate run through the chat GPT, especially if you have multiple personas who all report to the same company. You can ask it um, to create that fictitious company and build out everything like that. Um, let's just ask him, though, tell me about the company you work for. Okay, there's a lot of information here. If I wanted to, I could say, please restate in 2 to 3 sentences. If I just want to be able to copy and paste this really quickly, I would ask it to restate into nice short 2 to 3 sentences. Still a little long, but that's all right. Now we need to find out about James's professional role, right? So um, in this case, I want to get his core responsibilities as bullet points, so I can just copy and paste them over. Okay, that looks pretty good. At the risk of making this a little bit harder for you guys to read, I am going to reduce the font size. That said, this is a little bit too much information, right? So rather than me go and try and edit it, I can ask, please list only the top four bullets. Well, that's really short. All right, I'm going to leave the long one in there, and we will just do our best to make this all fit. All right, now I need a day in the life. Great. Oops. Um, I'm struggling to make this fit in here, so just please bear with me on that. There we go. All right. Role in the buying committee. This is something you're probably going to need to get from sales, and we're not going to be able to get asking James. He's not going to know his particular role within the buying committee. Now, if I knew exactly what I was selling, I could ask him, and he would give me some input. But sales is going to have a better idea of where James is going to sit here. So let's ask, or let's just put in here that James is the specifier and decision maker. And we got that from, again, the sales team, not from here. Let's ask James how he's measured at work. Great. Now here, I probably don't need the additional information here because these are pretty succinct things. So I'm going to fill them in and then I'll get rid of those uh, additional definitions here. Okay. Next up, I need to find out what sort of information he finds valuable. So I'm going to give this prompt a little bit more information to make sure that I get back what I want. There we go. We can paste that information in there. Oops. Let's find out what James is drawn to, his aspirations, and let's find out what he's frustrated with. When it comes to aspirations, there's kind of two different buckets for these. One is sort of career aspirations, where does he want to go in his role? And two is what does he want to accomplish in his role? So let's break this into two questions and ask James, uh, where do you want to go with your career? Notice I say, if you're looking to move up, what's next for you? If I just said, what's next for you, it would say where he wants to go. But maybe he doesn't necessarily want to move up or get promoted. We'll find out. Okay, so he does. He wants to become plant manager or director of operations. Let's ask next, uh, what aspirations do you have in your current role? Eventually get promoted to plant manager, director of operations. All right. Next up is frustrations. I like to ask a question a couple of different ways just to make sure that the AI is looking at it from a couple of different angles. So not only what are your frustrations in your professional role, but what stands in the way of you, uh, say, being proud of your work. What's the name of the company again? It is Redwood Tools. Beautiful. Now, a lot of times this extra color is good stuff, and you just try to figure out how to make this stuff fit on the persona profile because more information is better, especially when we start feeding this information back in to the AI to use it. But for right now, I'm just gonna delete this stuff so it all fits in here. Okay, we need a pull quote, and we'll get to the picture in a minute. Um, there we go. Now, I'm doing all of this inside of one chat. Um, oh, it's complaining that I don't have enough things. In some AIs, it'll talk about a context window where you've been asking too much inside of one long stream or one long chat, and it will ask you to start a new chat. But in this case, it's building on its own prior responses and staying internally consistent. You notice that earlier I had asked it, where do you live? And it said that James said he lived in Chicago. And then I asked about, so he lives in the suburbs of Chicago. And then I asked him about Redwood Tools, and he made sure that Redwood Tools was based just outside Chicago. So it's staying internally consistent with its own prior responses. I'd recommend for your initial build out doing all of this inside of one chat so that you get that internal consistency. All right, page one is done. For us, page two is really about finding these individuals and using the persona in the application of work. So we want to know where they get their info, who their trusted advisors are, because these feed into the sales and marketing process. We want to know what social media they use, what trade publications they listen to, and organizations they attend, and other possible job titles. So I'll quickly ask this information here. Trusted advisors. Who do you turn to? Inside or outside? I'm going to kind of leave this about sourcing equipment, implying that our client or us in this case, we sell equipment to James, right? Social media information. And again, I wrote if any to give the AI an out. If he doesn't read anything, I want to know that. Now, here's where we have to take one extra step. We need to make sure these are real, because occasionally you will get a hallucination, especially in this step here where we're bridging this fictitious world with this real world, right? So I gave it permission to make stuff up. I have to go and grab these, copy them, and then jump over to a new tab and Google them to make sure that this is an actual real publication. In this case, it is. I want you to imagine for a moment that I did that for all of these before I actually copied and pasted them into the persona. You'll lose a lot of credibility in the organization if you go and put in made up publications right here. And then finally, I need to know what other job titles he'd have at other companies. If you were at a different, what other job titles might you have? Interesting, he said plant manager. That might be a separate persona for us, and we might pull that out. Um, but for today, I'm just going to put it in here. Let me come back over here, grab James's pull quote. And grab his name and job title. That's not useful. Great. Now we need to fix this picture. This doesn't, it could be a James, but it doesn't ring James to me. So let's jump over to, instead of ChatGPT or Claude, let's jump over to Midjourney. And we could ask for a photo in the context of a plant. Um, let's do that. Uh, page 34, process engineer uh, at work with, let's see what comes up there. Hmm, wrong kind of plant. I could fix that, but I'm just going to grab this photo for now. And now we can change this photo. And now we have a completed persona, but we're not quite done yet because there's probably a few things that are wrong in here. Now, one way I can get to the heart of what's wrong in here is I could send this over to the sales team. I could send this to manufacturer reps. I could send this to customer service, and I should do that at the end. But let's run one quick fact check first. So I'm going to export this as a PDF. And then I'm going to come back to ChatGPT and start a new chat. Um, what about the attached portrayal that would you disagree with? And now I can attach the persona profile I just created and then send this over to ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT and Claude will get a little defensive because they're going to actually pretend they're James. And we all get defensive when we're sent things about portraying us, right? It's talking about how it's reasoning. Oh, because it jumped me over to a different, oops. I did not mean to be an O3 mini high. I don't even know what O3 mini high is. I'm going to do the same thing over here in Claude. See what Claude says. And so it gave some criticisms here. Um, and these are usually items that you'll want to go back and evaluate or ask a subject matter expert inside your company if they're valid or if this is an area that needs to be refined, or call that out when you send it over to other folks to look at. And we see the same here. So there's ChatGPT says 36 is a little young for this role. Um, and then it gets into some nitpicky stuff that isn't really applicable. Um, and so having this fact check is really, really valuable. The next thing, um, would be to how do you use this, right? How do you use these personas in your daily life? So I want to imagine for a moment that, and I just grabbed a random engineering blog here. Imagine you work for Crescent Industries and you wrote this blog post and you'd like to add to it or enhance it or make it better. Let's ask ChatGPT how it would improve this. So the best way to do that is to actually start a new chat. And I'm going to say, you are James Miller. See attached. I'd like to ask you a few questions. Now, I found that if you just feed it the persona, it will spit back out what you wrote in the persona verbatim. And that can cause a real problem. And so the way that I found to get around that is to literally tell it how to use that persona. So I'm going to say, please use the persona as a tool um, to empathize with James, not as an all-inclusive list. James's attributes, frustrations, needs, etc. I forgot to attach the persona. Let's see if it calls me on it. Okay. And because it's ChatGPT and it can access the internet, I can simply paste the blog post in. Maybe. And here I have some insight into how to improve that blog post specifically for this persona. You can use this same prompt where you upload the persona and ask it to answer questions to do additional market research, to explore ideas for content, to explore channels for reaching the persona, and basically just pretend you're talking to that persona and getting answers to all the questions you want. They're not going to be all perfect, but it's better than nothing if you're starting from ground zero. And obviously, you want to check with the people that interact with these personas day in and day out before you um, really take a whole lot of action on it. So that's pretty much it. The conclusion of the joke. ChatGPT walks into a bar. The bartender asks, "What'll it be?" And ChatGPT replies, "What everyone else is having." Drink emoji, rocket emoji, because we can't answer a question without a rocket emoji, right? All right. If you have any questions, please do post them into the chat. I'm not seeing much here. Let me double check the live stream chat. Nope, nothing over there. So with that, I would like to thank everybody for joining us today, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. If you're headed off into spring break, safe travels, and we'll see you at the next webinar.